Good afternoon, students. Today we are going to learn about the drug absorption. In last lecture, we have started with little bit about the drug absorption and we have started looking the factors that will affect the drug absorption. In last lecture, we will just revise the syllabus of last lecture, what we have learned in the last lecture, and then we will move forward towards the today's lecture. Now, last lecture we have seen the definition of absorption. Okay, that you all know it is a movement of unchanged form of drug from site of administration to the systemic circulation. Then we have seen the pH ranges at various location of your GI tract, that is initially we have seen it in the oral cavity, then stomach, then small intestine, then colon, then rectum, and these all pH ranges variation in our GI tract, that also we have seen in a last lecture. Then we have seen the various drug absorption factor. In that last lecture we have started with the physicochemical factors. Then there are three factors all of you know in come to know in the last lecture, that is drug absorption will depend on the physicochemical factors, formulation factors, and physiological factors. Okay, then we have started with the physicochemical factors. In physicochemical factors we have started with, these are the different physicochemical factors, that is drug solubility and dissolution rate, then particle size and effective surface area, then polymorphism and amorphism, then pseudopolymorphism, then salt form of the drug, lipophilicity of the drug, then pK of the drug and gastrointestinal pH. We also called it as a together lipophilicity of drug and pK of drug and gastrointestinal pH. Together we can call it as a pH partition hypothesis, and lastly drug solubility. Okay, up till I think particle size and effective surface area, up till now we have finished in the last lecture. In today's lecture we will start with the next we can say next physicochemical factors that will affect the absorption of drugs. Okay, that is the actually we have seen how the drug solubility and dissolution will impact on your we can say drug absorption. Okay, that particular factor we have seen it by simple this animation. Then we have moved forward. This is a drug dissolution and solubility. Then solubility absorption is a depend on a rate of dissolution and rate of permeation, that also we have seen. Then drug solubility and dissolution rate, what is the difference, how which are the different theories that will drug dissolution will shows, that also we have seen by simple animation method. Okay, then we have seen Fick's law of diffusion and Danforth model we have seen in the last lecture. Okay, its advantages, its merit, demerits, that all we have covered in the last lecture. We have also seen how Danvers postulated its theory, that how dissolution will happens by the pockets of edites. Then Danvers model equation we have seen. Then various barrier model, interfacial barrier model we have seen in the last lecture. Then particle size and particle surface area, that also we have finished in a last lecture. Now today we are going to start with the our next physicochemical parameter, that is polymorphism. Now the polymorphism is a, if you want to study the polymorphism, initially you know the internal structure of compound. Okay, now you tell me the internal structure of chemical compound generally divided into two groups. Which are these two groups?
Amorphous and crystalline.
Okay, it is right. It is amorphous and crystalline, or we also call it as it is divided into two, that is crystalline and non-crystalline. Non-crystalline is also called as a amorphous. Generally internal structure of chemical compounds is divided into two groups, that is crystalline and non-crystalline one. Okay, now again crystalline is again divided into two groups. Crystalline substances are also two types. The crystalline is again divided into two groups, that is polymorphs and molecular adducts. This particular we can say classification of internal structure of chemical compound is very important. Without that we cannot able to understand polymorphism as well as also your amorphism phenomenon and also pseudopolymorphism. For these all three we will need to clear about the concept of internal structure of chemical compound. Now this crystalline is divided into polymorphs and molecular adducts. Now polymorphs is again divided into two types, that is enantiotropic and monotropic, and moleculars is again divided into two, that is non-stoichiometric complexes and stoichiometric complexes. Stoichiometric complexes is also called as a pseudo polymorphism, or we also in simple language we can say false polymorphism. Then pseudo polymorphism again classified into two groups, that is solvates and hydrates. Okay, this is the actual, we can say, flow diagram for the internal structure of chemical compound. Now we will start with the polymorphism. Okay, all of you know the definition of polymorphism. Many times you have learned about this particular definition of polymorphism. The polymorphism is the ability of solid material to exist in, this is very important, two or more crystalline forms. Means whenever your compound, chemical compound, will have two or more crystalline form, okay, with different arrangement of and arrangements or conformation of the constituent in a crystal lattice. That particular phenomenon is, we can call it as a polymorphism, and the structure, two different structure, we can call it as the polymorphs of each others. Okay, the polymorphism or different polymorphs of same drugs can alter the physical properties of your drugs, like solubility. Means if one drug is there and it has a different polymorphs, then their solubility, melting point, density, hardness and compression characteristics are different. That's why it is very important to study the polymorphism of our drug. Okay, or it will directly have impact, as it will have impact on a, we can say, solubility, and solubility alter the dissolution behavior, and ultimately in dissolution behavior it will also alter the absorption of your drug. That's why polymorphism is very important factor in case of your drug absorption. Now polymorphisms, again we have seen that enantiotropic polymorphism or enantiotropic polymorphs, we also called it as a reversible, and the example is sulfur, and second one is a monotropic. Now what is the difference between enantiotropic and monotropic? Okay, enantiotropic are the polymorphs. These are the polymorphs, they can possible only in a certain environmental condition, like increasing heat, increasing humidity. In that cases only we can say enantiotropic polymorphism is possible in our drugs. Okay, but it can be reversible. If you maintain this condition, you can again reverse the polymorphic form. But in monotropic polymorphism, it will remain unstable at any environmental conditions. Means in the normal conditions also they will continuously changing their internal structure. These particular drugs will, or this particular, we can say, chemical compounds will continuously change its chemical structure or conformations. That's why these are called as a monotropic. Means they are completely unstable at any environmental conditions. Okay. Now example of this monotropic, glyceryl stearates. These are generally shows the polymorphism like a monotropic. Then polymorphs have different stabilities and may spontaneously convert from metastable, that is, we also in simple language we can call it as a unstable form, to the stable form at a particular temperature. Means polymorphism is a phenomenon that it is converting its crystalline structure from little bit unstable to the stable one. Okay, then polymorphism has profound influence on formulation development, and it may exhibit difference in a solubility, dissolution rate, then compatibility, which is important for the, if you are going for the compression of drugs for the tablets, then compatibility will also get altered due to the polymorphism, and hygroscopicity. Okay, these are the various we can say physicochemical properties that will change by the polymorphism and ultimately affect your drug absorption process. Then amorphism. Next concept is the amorphism. Now what is amorphism? Amorphism is nothing but like your you can say polymorphism only, but in this case mostly the drugs in a amorphous state are play the amorphism phenomenon. Some drug can exist in a amorphous form, that is having no internal crystal structure. Amorphous drug, or we can say non-crystalline drug, will generally have no internal chemical structure. Such drug represents highest energy state. Their energy state is highest. Okay, they have greater aqueous solubility than crystalline form. Why? Because the energy required to transfer the molecule from the crystal lattice is greater than the required of non-crystalline form. That's why it is the highly soluble, we can say amorphous form is the highest soluble. The amorphous example, the amorphous form of novobiosine, that is antibiotic, is 10 times more soluble than crystalline form. That you come to know. That means how you can see about after this example, that is novobicin, it is a 10 times more stable than its crystalline form. If we converting novobicin from crystalline to amorphous form, then its solubility is highly we can say increased 10 times, increasing solubility, then ultimately dissolution rate, and due to dissolution ultimately increasing its we can say absorption, and depending on absorption ultimately increasing its bioavailability. That's why the amorphism plays a very vital role in a drug development. But amorphism is having a problem, that amorphous form of drug is not highly stable, though it is highly soluble, but it is not highly stable, and due to that it is very difficult to maintain amorphous state of your drug in a normal temperature or environmental conditions. The amorphous form is continuously undergo the polymorphism and try to convert itself in a crystalline form. That's why amorphism is an unstable phenomenon and it is very difficult to control. Now dissolution order, amorphous form is highly dissolved or highly soluble, then metastable polymorphism, and whatever the stable polymorphs which are very less soluble. This is the order of we can say dissolution depending on the various forms of drugs. Then we will start with the pseudopolymorphism. Now pseudopolymorphism is like a polymorphism. There is a change in internal structure of your drug, but it is not due to the whatever the molecules in a crystal, but it is due to the whatever the solvent molecules are entrapped in that crystalline structure. That's why we can call it as a pseudopolymorphism. I mean, polymorphism is not due to the molecules present in your drug structure, but it is due to the molecules that will entrapped in a solvent molecules. That's why we called it as a pseudopolymorphism, that is false polymorphism. The polymorphism is there, but it is not due to the whatever the molecules of your crystal, but it is due to the whatever the entrapped solvent. We can call it as a pseudopolymorphism. Now pseudopolymorphism is of two types, that is solvates and hydrates. Now solvates and hydrates, okay, these are also called as a pseudopolymorphism, comes under the stoichiometric complexes of drug. Okay, so that solvates and hydrates are two types of pseudopolymorphs. Okay, these are differ each other from whatever the entrapped in your drug molecule. Like example is that now firstly we will look towards the solvates, where the solvent molecules are incorporated in the crystal lattice of the solids are called as a solvates, and the trapped solvent as a solvent for crystallization. Okay, in that case we can say any solvent other than water, if it is entrapped in a crystal lattice, then we can call it as a solvent, and the solvent which is entrapped we can call it as a solvent of crystallization. Okay, and hydrates, when the solvent is associated with the drug is water and the solvent is known as a hydrates. Means in hydrates whatever these entrapped solvent molecules are solvent molecule, and in hydrates the entrapped solvent molecules are water molecules. That's why this is the only difference. Now for simple example, many times you have seen, suppose in case of solvates, cetirizine hydrochloride, we can mostly say that it is a salt form of drug, but hydrochloride is, we can say it is a solvent, and that solvent we can say it is a cetirizine solvates, that is pseudopolymorphism. And in hydrates, these are the, suppose if you have observed the structure of food acid like citric acid, tartaric acid, after its empirical formula you can always see that there is a written something, that is 12H2O, 6H2O. okay, that is nothing but a water for crystallization. Okay, that comes under the hydrates. That will also impact your drug absorption phenomenon. Ultimately it will leads to the formation of polymorphs of different chemical structure, internal structure. That's why they will also play a vital role in your absorption of drugs. Now example of this, that is pentanol solvates of N-pentanol solvates of furocortisone and succinyl sulfathiazole. Means N-pentanol is entrapped in a furocortisone and succinyl sulfathiazole. It will also show you a solvates type. These are the examples of pseudopolymorphism. Now anhydrous form greater aqueous solubility than hydrate form. Means hydrates have a less solubility than anhydrous form of drug. Example is anhydrous form of ampicillin have a higher aqueous solubility than trihydrate form. Okay, ampicillin anhydrate is having more solubility than ampicillin trihydrate form. The solvate form forms greater aqueous solubility than non-solvate. If solvates are there, then it will form a greater solubility. Example is the chloroform solvate of grisofulvin, more water soluble than non-solvate form. This is the example of solvates. Now we will move towards the next physicochemical property, that is salt formation of drug. Now it is also important because that salt formation will enhance the solubility and ultimately the dissolution and finally the rate of absorption your drug. Okay, while considering the salt form of drug, pH of the different layer is important, not the pH of the bulk of the solution. Means what, in which solution you are going to dissolve your salt, in that case the pH of the diffusion layer of your, we can say, GI tract, it is important, and not the whatever the bulk solution pH. Means what is the pH of that particular in the GI tract, that is not important, but the pH at the diffusion layer of your intestine, or we can say GI tract, is important. Example is that in the salt form of weak acid, the pH of diffusion layer will be higher that observed with the free acid form of drug, which promote the solubility and dissolution of weak acids, and absorption is bound to be rapid. Okay, now you know that in this case, if salt of weak acids we have prepared, and as you know that the rule that is like dissolve likes, in this same case, in weak acid cases, that particular drug is highly soluble and it is simply get dissolved and absorbed from that particular location in your GI tract. That is called as a salt form. Now how salt form works we will see. Now first we will look at this animation. You will come to know how salt form of drug will plays a vital role in a drug absorption. Okay, now consider this is a salt of weak acid. Okay, this is a salt of weak acid drug. Then diffusion layer highest, this second one, it is a diffusion layer. Okay, highest pH is 5 to 6 suppose. Then bulk solution relatively lowers the pH at 1,3. This is a bulk solution. The empty part, we can say it is a bulk solution. Now drug will diffuse from this diffusion layer to the bulk solution. Okay, then after diffusing it into this solution, what will happen, that is fine precipitate of weak acids. Okay, one condition, if pH is in 1 to 3 range, then fine precipitate of weak acid will be possible in the stomach. Then soluble form of drug, or drug will go in a solubilized state. Okay, if it will go in a solubilized state, it will easily cross your GI barrier and enter into your blood, or we can say enter in your plasma. Okay, if fine particles, then rapid dissolution is also possible for that particular fine particles. Then drug is in solution and it may also enter into your we can say blood. Okay, this is the figure that is dissolution and absorption of acidic drugs. This drug is a acidic, that's why you can observe this type of phenomenon, that is at a diffusion layer is having 5 to 6 pH and bulk solution will have pH of 1 to 3, then this possible. Okay, then salt form of drug, in that one approach is formation of in situ salt formation, that is increasing pH of micro environment of a drug by incorporation of buffering agent. How we can form the salt in situ? In situ means inside your body only, means at what site, that particular site only the salt form will get formed. Okay, in that case what we are doing, we are altering the pH micro environment at that particular site by incorporating the buffering agent. The example of this is particularly aspirin and penicillin. Okay, the salt formation of aspirin will happens at the in situ, means at the location where it will get absorbed. Then but sometimes more stable salt form are required of drug and may results in a poor absorption. Okay, sometimes more stable we can say salt forms are possible and it may results in a poor absorption. Example, sodium salt of phenobarbital, it its tablet swells and did not get disintegrate, thus the dissolved slowly and results in a poor poor absorption. That is the example of salt formation. Now this is very important, pH partition hypothesis. Every year there is a question on pH partition hypothesis in your university exam, whatever internal exams we are taking, in that also every year there is a question on pH partition hypothesis, because this is the among these physico-chemical properties, this pH partition hypothesis, it is very important. Why? Because in this particular hypothesis we are going to learn about the lipophilicity of your drug, how it will have impact. Lipophilicity, as it is not having complete impact, lipophilicity with its the pH in a GI tract, that also plays a vital role in your drug absorption. That's why this pH partition hypothesis is very important. It is actually theory. In that theory, they have explained what is the impact of pH and lipophilicity of drugs on the drug absorption. Okay, now we will start with the pH partition hypothesis. The theory expresses the interrelationship of dissociation constant, that is pK of your drug, and partition coefficient, that is lipophilicity of the drugs, with the pH of GIT. Means these three factors is very important. Which are these three? Okay, these are the three factors. First, we can say dissociation constant. We can call it as a pKa. Okay, then partition coefficient. We can call it as a KO by W. Then pH of GIT. Okay, means what will be the dissociation constant of your drug, then what will be the partition coefficient of your drug with a we can say whatever the solvent or whatever the liquid in your stomach and GI mucosa, in between that what will be the partition coefficient of drug, and what will be the pH at the gastrointestinal tract, so that it will have a impact on your drug absorption. Okay, so that we can able to predict the drug absorption. Now what is the statement? Okay, in pH partition hypothesis they have given a statement for a drug compounds. Okay, read the statement very carefully, it is very important. It will clear your basic idea about the pH partition hypothesis. For drug compound, if the molecular weight drug compounds of molecular weight, it is important, more than 100, which are primarily transferred across the membrane or biomembrane by passive diffusion. That is important statement of this pH partition hypothesis. Okay, for the drug compound who are having molecular weight more than 100 Daltons, which are primarily transported across the membrane, transported across the membrane, biomembrane by passive diffusion, and the process is governed by these three factors, that is dissociation constant pKa of the drug, then second lipid solubility, or we can call it as a pH partition, or we can call it as a partition coefficient, we can denoted it here, and then the last, the pH at the absorption site. Okay, that is the pH, what will be the pH of your absorption site, that is all given in your this theory. Okay, then the pH of the absorption site. I mean, these three factors, pKa, lipid solubility and pH, are very important in case of pH partition hypothesis. Okay, now we will next, that is pH partition hypothesis. Initially we will firstly start with the drug pK and GI pH. Now in a drug pK and GI pH, the amount of drug that exists in unionized form, that is important. The amount of drug exists in a unionized form, and in ionized form is the function of pKa. That all you know, that in Henderson-Hasselbalch equation also we have seen that what is the drug pK, how we can compute the drug pK. Okay, is the function of drug pK of a drug and pH of the fluid at the absorption site. Okay, amount of the drug that exists in an unionized form and ionized form is the function of, means drug pK, what is the drug pK and what will be the absorption site at which drug will get exposed, that will define the function, that will define the absorption determine it will define the what will be the absorption pattern, or it will define if your drug will go in an unionized form or if your drug will goes into a ionized form. Okay, these two factors will define whether your drug will remain in unionized state or ionized state. Which two factors? That is first one, that is function of pK of your drug, and at what pH your drug will get exposed. This is the second factor. These two factors will decide whether your drug will remain unionized form or will go in a ionized form. And how we can determine this? We can determine this by using Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. Now what is Henderson-Hasselbalch equation for weak acid? All of you know that pH is equal to pKa plus log of concentration of ionized form divided by concentration of unionized form of drug. Okay, then percentage of ionization or ionized form drug, we can call it we can calculate it by 10 raised to pH minus pKa divided by 1 plus 10 raised to pH minus pKa into 100, by using that for weak acids. This equations is for weak acids. For weak bases, the equations are pH is equal to pKa plus log of concentration of unionized, means this particular phenomenon will get inverse in this case. Okay, this is acid, and in case of base this will get inverse plus concentration of unionized part of drug and divided by concentration of ionized. Okay, the percentage drug ionized is calculated by pH is equal to 10 raised to pK minus pH divided by 1 plus 10 raised to pK minus pH into 100. Okay, this is all about the how we can predict drug pK and GI pH. This is important one, that is the first statement. This first statement is very important. Amount of drug that exists in unionized form and ionized form is decided by drug pK and at what site the drug is going to be released. It is very important because it will decide whether your drug will remain in an unionized state more or ionized state more at a particular pH and the pK of your drug. Okay, then next we will start with, now in this you can observe if your drug is having weak acids. Okay, if your drug is having weak acids, what will happen? Okay, now these are the three conditions are given. Stronger acid ionized in the entire pH range, poorly absorbed, example chromoline sodium. If your acid drug is a highly acidic, okay, pK for weak acids, and if you are taking your drug which is having very which is strong acids in a nature, in that case strong acid ionize the entire pH range and poorly absorb. Putly any pH is there in your GI tract, the strong acids will go get ionized, and all of you know that ionized form is poorly absorbed compared to the unionized form, so that the stronger acid will remain poorly unabsorbed or will remain poorly absorbed at any pH range in your GI tract. Okay, then second, the affected by change in pH, the best absorbed in the stomach. Those drugs which are having we can say pK, in case of strong acid the pK is having less than 2.5. In this scale you will come to know that this is 2.5 and here it is a less than 2.5, so that strong acid generally have a pK less than 2.5, so that it will remain poorly absorbed because it will get ionized at entire pH range. If the acids which are having pK in the range 2.5 to 7.5, in this range if your drug is having pK, okay, acid it is acidic and having a pK in this range, that is 2.5 to 7.5, then these drugs will affected by change in pH, means their we can say absorption is pH dependent and the best absorbed in the stomach. Okay, these drugs are bestly absorbed in a stomach. Okay, absorb in the stomach. Okay, and range is weak acids in the range of 2.5 or pK of acids in the range of 2.5 to 7.5. Okay, we can call it as a, or these particular, we can say the absorption of these acids or these drugs is pH dependent, means change in pH will alter the absorption of these drugs. And all NSAIDs, that is your paracetamol, diclofenac, we can say aceclofenac, these all NSAIDs comes under this category of pK of drug having a pK in the range of 2.5 to 7.5. Then next, if the drug pKa is greater than 8, Okay, if it is a greater than 8, okay, we call it as a very weak acids, and it will remain unionized at all pH range. Okay, these particular drugs will remain in unionized state for all pH range, and it will get absorbed from anywhere in your stomach. That's why we also call it as a pH independent absorption. Those drugs which are having pKa greater than 8, if it is a weak acid, and we can call it as a, or it will have its absorption is a pH independent. It will get absorbed from anywhere of your GI tract. Okay, this concept is for all about only pK of your for weak acids. Okay, then the for weak bases, if your drug is a weak basis and having a pKa in the range of or less than 11, okay, less than 11, the stronger base, then we can say it is a stronger base, and it will ionize same like acid. Again, it will get ionized in entire pH range of your GI tract, and it will get poorly absorbed in your stomach. Okay, example is guanethidine. It is a good example of base which is having stronger base, and it will ionize in entire, and so that its absorption is very poor. Now second concept, if your drug is having pH in the range of 11 to 5, okay, if it is in the range of 11 to 5, then in that case the weak base affected by change in pH, same like acids. Okay, the absorption is affected by change in pH, and best absorb in the intestine. Example is morphine. Okay, if acid is in the range of 2.5 to 7.5, it will get absorbed from stomach. If your base is there, drug is basic, and it has a pK in the range of 11 to 5, then it will get absorbed from intestine. Okay, that is all the concept of bases. Okay, if your drug is having pK less than 5, then we can say it is very weak base and unionized in all pH range, and it will again similar like your we can say very weak acid. It is also remain weak base, also will remain unionized on pH range, and it will get absorbed from any part of your GI tract. The example is diazepam. Okay, this particular chart is very important. Now this is simply animated, and simple chart will, you can write it like this. Okay, then next part of pH partition hypothesis is that lipophilicity and drug absorption. Now first factor we have seen, which is the first factor, that is drug pKa and GI pH. That first factor we have seen. Now we start with the next factor, that is last factor in the pH partition hypothesis, that is lipophilicity and drug absorption. Okay, now in lipophilicity and drug absorption, the lipophilicity also is an important part of your drug absorption, as the lipid solubility of the drug is determined from its oil to water, or we also call it as a partition coefficient, PCO/W values, whereby increase in this value indicates the increase in percentage of drug absorbed. Means whatever the partition coefficient, PCO/W, or sometimes we can call it as a pKa, we can call it as a KO/W, that if that particular value, partition coefficient of your drug will get increases, ultimately the absorption of that particular, or partitioning of that particular drug in a lipoidal barrier will increase, and simply the absorption of that particular drug will also get increased in your stomach, or we can say GI tract. Nowadays the calculations are done by the values in log, and mostly N-octanol versus water as a partitioning medium is used, and we can calculate the partition coefficient of the drug, and that depending on that particular log values, okay, or we also call it as a log P values. Okay, log P values we can able to determine the absorption of your drug. Okay, if that log value is less than 0, we can say that particular drug is a polar one, or we can say hydrophilic one. Okay, then it is poor intestinal absorption. It will show you a poor intestinal absorption, but it will might show good absorption in a stomach. The example is gentamicin. If it will range in between 0 to 1, then good GI absorption, it will get absorbed in a gastrointestinal very goodly in any part. Okay, if it is about 3, it is near about 3, then appreciable GI absorption, means we can appreciate absorption is there, but it is appreciable, means not too less, not too high. And if it is more than 5, then we can say it is highly non-polar. For intestinal absorption, poor intestinal, it will show poor intestinal absorption. An example is pimozidine, that is one of the antipsychotic agent. Okay, this is a lipophilicity of your drug that will play a vital role. Now there are certain limitations for the pH partition hypothesis. First limitation is the presence of virtual membrane pH. Now what is presence of virtual membrane pH? All of you know that we are considering here pH when we are taking a drug. It will initially goes in your stomach. In that case, the presence of virtual membrane is that we are considering the pH only of your gastric acid. Okay, but our stomach has a lining of mucosal layer, and mucosal layer is a lining of mucus. Okay, and it is not acidic in nature. Its pH is different than acid, and there might be a chances of whatever drug will go in ionized or unionized state in that mucous membrane. That membrane pH we are not considering. That's why we call it as a presence of virtual membrane pH. This is a virtual membrane. Actually it is a liquid layer around your stomach, mucus layer. Okay, but we are not considering it because we are it doesn't consist of any cell. It is just a mucus, or it just a liquid cells or semi-solid semi-solid material we can say, and it has a different pH. Okay, that's why we call it as a virtual membrane pH. Limitations of this pH partition hypothesis. In this hypothesis we did not consider any pH or pH range of your mucous membrane, that is virtual membrane pH. Okay, then second one is absorption of ionized drug. In whole pH partition hypothesis we mostly consider the absorption of unionized drug. We are saying that unionized form of drug will get betterly absorbed, but what about the ionized drug absorption? Okay, due to the large lipophilic groups in the structure, ionized drug generally have a large lipophilic groups in a structure, and it will get absorbed also. But in pH partition hypothesis there is nowhere it is explained that why or how the ionized form of drug will get absorbed. Then third influence of GI surface area and resident time of drug. Okay, now all in whole pH partition hypothesis they have only said that these three factors, that is pK of drug, that is dissociation constant, then pH at the absorption site, and lastly lipophilicity of drug. These three factors will play the role in a absorption. But these are the not only three factors, there are also influence of GI surface area. What is the surface area of your gastrointestinal tract, and secondly resident time of drug, how much time the drug will resides in your GI tract. If longer time is there, ultimately your absorption will be more. That is also not discussed in a pH partition hypothesis. Okay, then last, presence of unstirred aqueous diffusion layer. Okay, during having large partition coefficient can rapidly penetrate the lipid membrane, but diffusion through unstirred layer is a rate limiting step of their absorption. Okay, means in a dissolution absorption dissolution theories also we have seen that diffusion is possible, but it is in an unstirred layer when we are not stirring that particular. But whatever the peristaltic movement of our GI tract, that will also play a vital role in a diffusion of your drug and solubilization of your drug. Okay, that also is not explained by the pH partition hypothesis. These are the certain we can say the limitations of pH partition hypothesis. Okay, then the drug stability. A drug stability, this is all about the previously we had whatever we have learned, it is all about the pH partition hypothesis, and it is very important. A drug for oral use, now we will start with the drug stability. A drug for oral use may destabilize either during its shelf life or in the GI. Okay, the drug stability also plays a vital role in your absorption. When we are using drug for oral use, it may get destabilized during we are storing our drug, or whenever we are taking our drug in a gastric acid or in a GIT. When it will come in contact with gastric fluids, it may get unstable. That's why the stability will also play the vital role. The two major stability problems result in poor bioavailability and orally administered drugs are the first is that degradation of drug into inactive form. The example is a penicillin G, which will have an enzymatic degradation in your stomach pH, so that it will become unstable when we are taking penicillin G via oral route. Then interaction with one or more different components, either from the dosage form or the present in the GIT. One or means we can say if your dosage form containing excipients which are incompatible with each other, then also it will create a problem. Or when it will come in contact with gastric acid, then also it may lose its stability, or it may get converted into another form. Okay, that, and it will remain unabsorbed. That is all drug stability. Okay, this is all about the physicochemical factors. Okay, physicochemical factors of drug absorption. All of you understood which are all the physicochemical factors that will absorb that will affect the absorption. Did you get this? Yes or no? Okay, now we'll just revise. Anyone can tell me which are the different physicochemical factors that we have seen up till now that will affect the absorption? One by one, just tell me one factor, physicochemical parameters. First, yes, be fast. Any factor, whatever factors we have seen that will affect the absorption, physicochemical factors, any one factor, tell me which are the different factors, physicochemical factors that will affect the absorption.
Drug solubility and dissolution
Okay, drug
rate.
solubility and dissolution rate. Then next,
Lipophilicity and drug absorption.
Particle size and
particle size and effective surface area. That is right. अजून कोणतरी सांगितलं होतं काहीतरी? Yes.
Lipophilicity.
Yes.
pseudopolymorphism.
Okay. Polymorphism. Polymorphism, amorphism, and pseudopolymorphism. Then drug stability. Okay. Salt form of the drug. That is also right. Then
pH of
Lipophilic of
okay, pH, or we can simply say pH partition hypothesis.
pH of the drug.
Okay, pH of the drug. pH of the drug. That is not a pH of the drug. It is pH of GI tract. pK of the drug, we can say.
Gastric.
Okay, pK of drug, pH of GI tract, and lipophilicity of drug. Together we can call it as, what we can call it as together? pH of drug.
Polymorphism and amorphism.
Okay, pH of drug, pK of okay, pH of your GI tract, pK of your drug, and lipophilicity of drug. Together we can call it as a what?
yes.
Yes. pH partition hypothesis, that is important one. Okay, among these physicochemical parameters I can say that pH partition hypothesis is most important, because every year there is a question. It is also many times whatever the ranges of weak acids and weak bases that will goes in ionized and unionized state, and how its impact on absorption. Every year there is a question on your GPAT also in a pH partition hypothesis, so that it is important for your GPAT preparation also, and it is important for your regular university exams also. And this is the main factor in a physicochemical parameters. It is the main factor that we can say will alter the rate of absorption of your drugs. Okay, now we will move towards the, or we will just start the formulation factor. We will see it in detail tomorrow lecture. We will just initially start little bit about the formulation related factor. Now what are the formulation related factor? We can say after physicochemical properties of your drug, testing the physicochemical properties, we need to convert our drug in a dosage form. Either it is drug converted into capsule, syrups, elixirs, we can say tablets, semi-solids, anything. We need to convert it into formulation. While doing that, there are certain formulation factors. Okay, while processing that drug into or from drug to the we can say dosage form, there are certain factors. Suppose consider we are preparing a drug from a we are preparing a dosage form from a drug. Okay, which different factor you can think that it will alter the absorption of your drug? Tell me that. What do you think, which are the different formulation factors that will affect the absorption of drug?
Drug and additive complex, sir.
Drug and
Additive complex.
okay, Ajun.
Dosage form.
Type of dosage form, that is also important. Then when means whether you are manufacturing tablet, capsule, suspension, emulsion. Okay, next. Okay, suppose I am saying that we are manufacturing tablet dosage form from a particular drug. Which are the formulation related factor now? Consider we are manufacturing tablet. That will alter your absorption.
Particle size.
Particle size of your drug, that is right. Then this is also comes in a physicochemical, but I am mostly focusing on formulation processing. Whatever the processing we will do on a drug for the formulation. Suppose we are tableting. Okay, we are doing different steps. You all of you know that dispensing, granulation, compression. Okay, these are all the various steps in your tablet manufacturing. How these will affect the rate of absorption, that I am asking. Yes. Okay, we'll just see which are the different formulation factors are there, and in detail we'll start with the next lecture. Okay, now the formulation factors are these. First, we can say if you are manufacturing a tablet dosage form, then we can say disintegration time for the tablets and capsule, then dissolution time for all tablet, capsule, emulsion, suspension for all, then manufacturing variables, which are the different manufacturing variables are there. We'll see it in a detail in third. Then pharmaceutical ingredients, whatever the ingredients you are using, we also called it as a adjuvants or excipients. Then nature and type of dosage form, whether it's say a solid, semi-solid or liquid, that also will play vital role in your we can say drug absorption. And lastly, product age and storage condition. Okay, how much age of your product and in which storage condition we are storing that particular drug, that will also alter the drug absorption. These are all about the we can say this is all formulation factor, or formulation factors are also called it as a pharmaceutical factors. Okay, don't be get confused. If there is a question on pharmaceutical factors, it is one and the same as a formulation factor. Okay, did you get clear up to this, all of you? Remaining part we will see in the next lecture.